Hey folks, so one question I get a lot is what is a young wine? In the most simple terms, a young wine is a wine that has been recently bottled. And there's a lot of misunderstanding around bottle aging in the wine community, and so many consumers are under the belief that you need to age all of your wines and cellar them for years, when in fact, the majority of the wines on the market are intended to be consumed young. Especially white wines and aromatic wines, and even your lighter bodied red wines are not intended for aging and taste great very quickly after they have been bottled to really kind of get the most aromatically and flavor wise from those wines. Now, there are wines, and in many instances, the fuller bodied red wines that are really high in tannins that just need to mellow out and soften in bottle. And so those are the wines that you're going to want to cellar and hold on to in order for them to really be tasting their best. Because when they get that little amount of oxygen into the bottle via the cork, it's going to add more complex flavors to the wine. It's going to soften out those tannins and kind of round out the entire taste of the wine in your mouth and really make it an enjoyable wine. But the reason why I'm here today is what if you have a fuller bodied wine that could really use some time in bottle, but you're impatient. And I am often in this situation because, for example, I had this wine. It's a GSM from Washington, and it was gifted to me by a friend who makes his own wine. It was bottled in 2021, which for a red wine, or for this style, full-bodied red wine, is still a fairly young wine, even though it was bottled 2 years ago. But I wanted to try his wine. I got very impatient, and so I opened up the bottle the other night. So what you can do in this situation is you can decant it for an hour, 2 hours to allow it to kind of hyper age on its own. But another method I like to do is what I call the counter method, and that is just leaving the bottle, the open bottle, on the counter for a couple days. So what I really enjoy about this is that it almost gives you two wine experiences. So I'll open up a bottle that is intended to be aged, a young wine, and I will enjoy a glass on the first night. I'll notice that, a lot of those primary aromas are coming through, but it's not super complex. The tannins are still really sharp, but then if I don't consume the entire bottle, I will just put the cork back in. You do not need to use a vacuum preservation system. You do not need to use a Corvin. You do not need to pump it with argon. Just put the cork back in, leave it on your counter for a couple days, even up to like 5 days, and the wine will drastically change during that time. If you can be patient and wait those few days, you don't have to decant or anything. Just when you're ready to enjoy it again, pour yourself a glass, and you'll notice that it will be drastically different than the wine that you enjoyed on that first evening. And like I said, it'll be softer, it'll have more complex flavors, but yeah, you do not need to do anything to this wine. Just put the cork back in and let it sit. So that's what I do with young, fuller bodied red wines that really need to open up a bit. If I'm not going to be consuming the entire bottle in an evening, I'm not going to be decanting, is just to let it be on the counter and practice a little patience. So that's it for today.